All right. Hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because in today's video, what we're talking about is the Yieldmax Sq Option Income Strategy ETF, ticker symbol SQY. The reason being is we're looking at the underlying stock Square. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into this article here, which talks about how Block as a company has more than doubled from its lows. And some people are feeling that it is overvalued. They're talking about Block Inc. Square, the underlying stock of SQY, the stock that at one point had a 160% dividend, now is down to a 30% dividend, a very modest 30% dividend, still a high yielding company, or high yielding ETF by many means. We can kind of see the dividend history in the past here, and we're wondering now, as SQY holders, Yieldmax holders, we're wondering, will the underlying stock Block have a breakout like we've seen previously in previous years, or will it fall back down to prices and lows that we've seen recently in the past, down to $40? This is what we're going to be talking about here. We're going to do a dive on Block and look a little bit about their business, a little bit about their stock, and a little bit about this article to get some others' opinions. So if you guys do enjoy this video, please do remember to subscribe. We are now currently up to 4,253 subscribers. So as you can see, we're almost halfway to that 10,000 subscriber marker. That's the first thing that popped in my head when I seen the subscriber marker. So I want to say thank you to everyone who made this possible, and we're getting closer to 5 digits. Obviously still a long ways away, but like, share, comment, anything you can do, share it to your grandma, you know? But anyways, okay, let's get into this video. Okay, so today we're talking about Square, the Yieldmax Sq Option Income Strategy ETF, and Square, the underlying company. So basically, the reason why I'm talking about Square so much is because it has the potential for a pretty nice breakout. As you can see over the past, it's hit markers, as you see me say many times before, about $80 here, $78, about $78, about $80, and currently we're sitting at a point here where we are just on the verge of a potential breakout in Square. Now, as you can see here on the day, we actually went down about 3.5% or so, but you could see here for the 6-month chart, Square has been in a nice uptrending chart, kind of consolidating over the past 2 months, and that's has good reason, because if we were able to break through here, we could see some great new highs that are as high as $130 for Square, or even as well up to $260, which would be pretty crazy. I think that is very overvalued. If we're thinking that $80 price point could potentially be overvalued, we're definitely overvalued at this $260, $270 price point, because that market cap would be well over $150 billion. But let's get into this article today. So kind of the summary of this article is talking about how Square's shares have more than doubled since October 2023, which is only about 6 months prior to this current date of this video. And Square, sure, they have a strong balance sheet, they have potential for growth in the future, but they're wondering how is Square going to perform? It is potentially overvalued, and that's why there is this article. So I'm just going to read a little bit here. Since bottoming at the end of October 2023, Block Inc. Square shares have more than doubled. Shares of Square have appreciated by $45, roughly about 120% or so from their lows, as they have increased from roughly about $40 to about $85 in 5 months. Now, obviously, that's a big marker, but if the business is growing, then the share price and the stock should be growing as well. They should grow alongside each other. If the earnings are growing, why shouldn't the company be growing? Now, there's a little bit here that I want to mention. I have a hard time getting bullish on a company that has lost $382 million over the past decade while paying $4.2 billion in stock-based compensation over the past decade. So that's one of the negative things going for Square in this article. They're saying, look, like the company has lost about $400 million in the past decade. But that's not telling the entire story, of course, because Square is a growing company. And we can see, just kind of judging off the balance sheet, looking at the annual balance sheet, it has grown 3 times in the past 4 years, going from a balance sheet of about $10 billion to now a balance sheet of about $35 billion, which is roughly a 3.5 times right there. So Square's business obviously has grown over the past couple of years. You can see the revenue has grown, and let's see how their operating income. Their operating income has roughly stayed about the same. So it looks like they have a very big expense when it comes to their revenue. So they're not a huge cash generating business. They probably have a lot to do with research and development, which I only assume. I don't know for a certain fact, but Square as a whole, their balance sheet is very strong. So it's a company that's not necessarily going anywhere. You can see the liabilities are half the total assets, which is exactly what we want to see in a stable company. Their revenue is growing, which is fantastic. We do need to see, however, their operating income grow at the exact same time. Let's just look at it quarterly here, just to kind of get a little bit of a picture. And we could see here that it's staying relatively about the same. They have up months and they have down months. But the reason why I am very bullish on Square, obviously I do like the underlying business. Their business is kind of like they have a cash app, but at the same time their main business is they have these little transponders and they allow small businesses to make credit card transactions instead of using only cash. And they make not only on the transponders when they sell them, they could do monthly contracts, but then they make on every tap, which is fantastic. The more people you can get to use Square and then tap, the more monthly revenue these guys are going to incur. And obviously, as they do grow over time, their stock should grow over time. I think they have a really good stock chart. They're a relatively new company, that only dating back to about 2015 is when they IPO'd. And you can see here, people were extremely bullish during COVID, as you know, you could be, because everything went online. And there was no kind of physical or in-person interaction. All transactions were kind of made online, so the Cash App was probably doing very well. But then obviously, as the hype died down, everything died down to normal levels, which we are now seeing here, which are between $80 and $40 roughly. So this was just a video to see, kind of talking about this little article where they do mention a couple of things. It says the analyst consensus estimates Square generating about $3.3 per share of earnings per share in 2024, $4.20 per share in 2025, and $5.46 per share in 2026. So you could see here from 2024 to 2026, that's roughly about a 60% gain or so. So that is a pretty good gain for the long term. And that's exactly what we want, especially for a Yieldmax ETF, is we want slow growth in the underlying stock, because that will produce a big yield in terms of their dividend, which I just closed here. That will produce a big yield in terms of their dividend, and it should hopefully reduce a lot of this downside pressure that we do experience when we do invest in these cover call strategy ETFs. So that is why I'm bullish on Block for the long term. Obviously, this is viewed as a long-term investment. Even the Yieldmax viewed as a long-term investment due to the fact that the underlying is going to grow hopefully slowly over the long term. That is a best case scenario. That is the case scenario that we are currently hoping for. Obviously, you plan for the worst, but pray for the best. And we will only see what Square does in the future when it actually comes through. And just to kind of touch on analysts, we can even go to Yahoo Finance's analysts here, and you can see that all numbers for 2025 compared to 2024 are greater. So a lot of people do think that Square's business model is only going to continue to grow over time. You can see their average revenue estimates looking to grow into 2025 by $2 to $3 billion or so. Earnings per share looking to grow. Actually, they did grow here. You could see they're growing from 2013. This is a 2013 history chart. And that is all well. You want people to be excited and be bullish on your underlying. And obviously, if they are, that would get them excited to invest, hopefully pushing the stock and continuing to kind of keep the momentum rolling with the stock. The stock currently has a lot of momentum. It is slightly slowing down, but it's going to be interesting what happens in the next couple of days, because we're at a key marker, whether it's going to go back up and retest this high about $85, or it's going to shoot back down to roughly $40 or even $70, somewhere about there. So this was a talk of Square, SQY, and what I think is kind of happening with them, why it's really all up in the air, what it's going to do now. Now is kind of the time where Square is going to make a decision whether it wants to trend higher or trend lower. That is kind of my thesis on Square in this article. Although it says that Square might be overpriced, there's a lot of bullish things to say for the future of Square. So that's something to keep in mind if you're an investor, something to keep you something to kind of keep you well when you're sleeping at night. My Square investment has done great for me, currently up about 2%, but receiving a 30% dividend at the same time. So all is well there. All right, so I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please remember to subscribe. We're up to 4,253 subscribers. I'll keep you guys updated with anything Square and Block related and SQY related, any kind of new dividends, any kind of releases with that, and any kind of updates as far as what Square's price is doing. If you guys have anything to let me know, obviously mention it down in the comments below, and I will take a look at that, and I will do what I can. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope it was informative. I hope it provided you guys with some kind of value, showing how some people might think this underlying stock Square is a little bit overvalued, but they are still bullish on the future. So that is something great to see. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys do take care, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.